Hi, Nancy. Do you want to do a mic check before we get started?
Okay, yep, that's fine. I'm on.
All right, can we go on once? Nancy, can you hear us on the side? Nancy, can you hear me? Nancy, can you hear me? Nancy, can you hear us? Chuck, can you hear us?
Nancy, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we have. Yep.
Okay,
And I
thanks.
just want to make Nancy, I just want to make sure you'll switch over to the Google Meets when we go into executive session.
Okay, I've got that set up. I will.
Yeah. Okay,
Thank you.
perfect.
And then I'll come back onto regular when you come back out of executive session.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, well, I'm going to call to order the Newburgh Dundee Public Schools school board meeting. Executive session will begin shortly, but then we'll come back for a board session. I'd like to read that the Newburgh Dundee School Board, excuse me, I forgot, we need to do the flag salute. Trevor, sorry. Flag salute for Trevor.
Okay.
Okay, can everybody hear me? Can the audience hear me and Nancy and Zoom land? So I'm going to read a statement about executive session. The Newburgh Dundee School board will now meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 192.6602F, which allows the commission to meet, the board to meet in executive session. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to stay here. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on otherwise disclose any of the deliberations or anything said about these subjects during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decision may be made in executive session. At the end of the session, we will return to open session and welcome the school board, put the school board back into action.
Okay. Google Meets. Google Meets. Oh, no. Meet. Hmm.
So.
Leave the door open until we're ready.
Yeah, sure.
Is it 20 something? What is 20 days? Slides and.
Maybe everyone's time to go up there. Well, Lakeside's great,
Yeah.
but also the time to venture, a little different hiking is going to Lost Dune side. Go up the Lost Dune River. Get there. Also, I have a higher chance of like seeing elk and birds of deer there.
We thought about. I saw dinner this time. Is just up in the park. Yeah, there's 5 foxes up there.
All kids are now.
Looks good.
So
I mean, they're fairly
Okay, I'm going to call the Newburgh School Board meeting back in session after executive session. Hello, everyone. I'm going to call the Newburgh Dundee School Board back into session. I love all the audience. If you could. Sorry, I don't have my microphone on. We are going to go back into the agenda and we're going to go under a review agenda, additions and or deletions. I have an addition to add Jen Esmond under the reports, presentations, and discussion items. And then we are, I hate to say this, our budget update will not be presented this evening. We do not have Dr. Phillips or Mr. Linenberger, who are both ill, and I've been given permission to express that. I did speak with Jackie Olson briefly on the way in tonight. She is working diligently on getting the budget numbers together for our meeting on Monday. So I would not expect an update until the Monday, June 10th meeting. So at this time, I'd like to invite Drew Gallagher and Jen Esmond to come up. And if you could take these spots up here, that would be great. Just a reminder, because it's difficult for folks to hear in the audience if our microphones aren't up close or to capture everybody who is watching. And so last week, we had a brief conversation. Drew came and then I ran into you in the audience and there seemed to have been some issues regarding inviting you to the table. So I asked you guys both to come back tonight. Now I do want to remind you that we don't have Dr. Phillips here or Mr. Linenberger. So to the extent, I'm not sure what you guys would like to share with us, but I know that we would be very interested in knowing what you guys want us to know.
Oh, no, hello, everybody. I kind of gave my presentation on Thursday, and so I wanted to give the floor to Jen so she could kind of give you their perspective from the classified workers' perspective. And then if you had questions for either one of us, I'm here, but kind of let you go. I'll let you know what's going on. I have a little bit of an update for you, but I wanted to make sure she had a chance to speak first.
Okay, so I also want to talk about the just total lack of communication that's gone on with regard to the whole budget thing. Yes, I was frustrated last week because, to tell you the story, I was sitting at home watching the budget meeting because the last time I met with district leadership was on the 21st, and I met with Drew, was there too. At that meeting, Dr. Phillips admitted that they had no idea how this happened. And the numbers they were getting different from day to day. No decisions were made that day because we didn't have any information. Then I heard on the 23rd from Dr. Phillips that furlough days were no longer an option because the license group had rejected the option, which I completely agreed with. I immediately informed my group through email that we weren't taking furlough days. The last day of school would be June 14th. I've had no communication since then. We're scheduled to meet on May 30th, right before the last board meeting, but there was no information and the numbers kept changing, so we decided to postpone the meeting until more information was available. Then comes the board meeting. Drew was invited to address the board, rightfully so. I found out about an hour before the board meeting that license groups were going to survey the numbers regarding taking 2 furlough days with many conditions attached that the district office would have to meet to make it happen. I was surprised by this, not because they were doing a survey, but because I was told that furlough days were no longer an option. Then furlough days were discussed with regards to licensed staff with little consideration given to classified staff. So I'm sitting at home, I'm watching this. So I text Drew as he's sitting at the table. I didn't expect him to respond. I text Steve and Scott, and I see Scott check his phone. And he replies to me, well, you should be here. Okay. If I'd known we were talking about furlough days, heck yeah, I would have been here. I'll be there in 5 minutes. Thank heaven I live in town. So I get in my car and I come down. And I'm sitting there going, I have 259 people that work for this district. And we were completely forgotten in the communication that was going on. And I'm not okay with that. We did not cause this. None of us did. I've yet to receive a solid answer outside of the obvious overspending in transportation, special education, and I'll stop there. I'm in special education. I'm special education EA and behavior, and never at any point in my 12 years in the district have I ever felt like special education is overstaffed. Ever. At any point. And OD funding as to where the massive mistakes were made, how they were made, and who's responsible, and who's being held accountable. Without this information, it is very difficult for me as an OCA Chapter 17 president to ask the lowest paid staff, who I consider the foundation of this district and are often forgotten when staff is talked about, to take such a large financial hit this late in their contracted year. Realize that these 2 furlough days that everyone's talking about would be spread into 2 paychecks, which for myself, because I know my numbers, would be approximately $200 less. And now I've been here 12 years. Would be about $200 less per paycheck. That's a lot of money. When family budgets are so tight and many of our classified employees are working 2 to 3 jobs, which I know many licensed employees do too. Another consideration that seems to have left people's minds, who should know better, is that OSEA members have varying contract days. So we don't have, like teachers have the exact, we start on this date, we end on this date. OSEA contracts, here we go. We have contracts that are 185 days. We have contracts 190 days. We have contracts that are 200 days, 210, 215, 220, 230, 240, and 260. So this late in the year, to ask for furlough days, I don't even know how that happens. It's not as cut and dry as just getting 2 more days of summer break for us. Now, if licensed staff decide to altruistically give 2 furlough days to the district, again, for something they did not cause, I have a great deal of respect for them and I'm unaware of their sacrifice. But my responsibility is to my members and to advocate for them. I must also make you aware that last board meeting, when Dr. Phillips was handing out his list of possible budget cuts or savings, I was perplexed to hear that 5 FTE classified RIF at the high school and middle school levels were even on that list. I've had discussions with Mr. Lindenberger regarding the different positions that will be affected by the budget cuts. He's actually been pretty forthcoming in these meetings. However, I had no idea this was being considered, and of course, it's raised a lot of panic amongst my members, for which I had no answers, which increased the angst and nervousness. I don't think anyone wanted this to happen, but here we are, and we cannot forget that these are real people with real families and real obligations. They are not just numbers on a paper.
Does anybody have any questions or comments for Jen? I have one. Have you, since Thursday night, have you heard from district office leadership?
Well, I'll say, when their survey came back, and Drew will probably update you on that, I did receive something, a short text from Dr. Phillips. I think it was on Friday night, because I sent you a copy of it, that basically said license have agreed to it. We need to talk early next week. That was it. Other than that, I haven't talked to anybody.
And I feel like my understanding is that if license agrees to it, you guys have to agree to it. It's all across the board. It's not a one. And either one of you can jump in. I just want to make sure that what my understanding is actually correct.
It's a good question. We haven't sat in a room and worked it out. Because it's not, if you did a furlough day in October. Yeah, because we can't work if the teachers aren't there, and the teachers can't, unless they want to go run the lunchroom and the secretaries, and I don't think any of them want to do that because they're busy enough already. So, yeah, it would make sense, but the last days of school, if they have a furlough day on Friday, I have people still contracted those days, or if they have a prep day on Thursday where the kids were supposed to be there, but it's not a furlough day, I have people contracted to work that day, but there's no kids. So how do you balance that?
I just wanted to make sure that
Yeah,
I was
so-
understanding the complexity. You can't just have one without the other.
Well, yeah, honestly, I don't know, and we haven't gotten down into the nitty gritty of it because I don't know, and that's the problem.
Just gonna say thank you for being here. And, if you haven't heard already on behalf of the district, sorry that you were not there on Thursday. That should not have happened. And
Thank you.
I want to say sorry for that. And I'm really glad that you're here today. So thank you for being here. And I can share in your frustrations with some of the lack of communication. So,
Thank you.
Mr. Gallagher, do you have anything to share with the us and the audience?
So I sent the email out. I shared it with Jen. I think I shared it with the board members as well. We did have a survey for furlough days for 2 days. And it was, as I mentioned to you on Thursday, it came with a big caveat. And the caveat was that we do get to sit down myself, maybe a couple other members of my team, get to sit down with district leadership. And I believe in the email that I sent you, I extended an invitation to a couple board members if you wanted to come to the process as well. I think it would be great. And sit down and make sure that at the district level, we've gone through this before, especially back in 2017, which was the time that I was a participant in this as a member of the executive team, that the district level is also making significant cuts to like administrative positions and licensed positions that are wonderful when your fund balance is going up by several points every year. And it's great if you have everything else dialed in and you can afford these positions. But when your ending fund balance is really negative, it's time to make some hard choices. And we want to make sure that we look at, as I said last week, I said, open the books up, let's look at them. We want to make sure that they're making those hard choices. And that from what we foresee in the last year or year and a half, was just a lot of excess hiring at the district level. We want to make sure that that is that's dialed in properly before, whether it's this year. And we did say yes to 2 furlough bills, but with that big caveat, we would not haven't signed off on anything yet. But as I mentioned last week, we know that there's probably going to be a question for next year. Are you willing to take 3 or 4 furlough bills next year? What's that going to look like? Are you want to take them on a Friday in October and a Friday in December and a Friday in February, Friday in April, or whatever? I know that's coming down the pike. And if my association and Jen's association agrees on anything like that, we want both of our associations and the district to be on the same page with the best way to move forward if we're going to make those sacrifices that, as Jen mentioned tonight, and I mentioned on Thursday, and we all know, is neither the fault of any classified worker or any classroom licensed worker in this district. Answer that, but I just got a message from someone at home saying that it sounds like we're underwater. So I don't know if that's anything that we can. I'm not a tech guy, so I just wanted to pass that. Okay, great. I just had that message. Okay, thank you. Um.
Yeah.
I was just gonna also thank you for being both of you, but I want to reiterate that. And I appreciate what you're saying and that, you know, you didn't cause this. And although I don't speak for the whole board, but I can speak for myself that I think that's a very fair cabinet to have on that, to take that and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard Dr. Phillips say that that's not abnormal to do that collaborative process and open the books. And I just want to say that I also think it's fair to expect that the district office will join you in those cuts. You know, I work in law enforcement. I'm part of an association. And some of the frustrations I think is felt in any organization is if you feel like the people actually doing the work are missed. We don't have schools without teachers. We don't have, you know, hospitals without nurses. We don't have police departments and fire departments without cops and firefighters. So just want to thank both of you that we don't have without EOs and secretaries and all the other positions. We don't have schools. So just, I think that's very fair. And I just want to thank you for that. And I think that that's a very fair assessment to ask and a sacrifice to be made at the administrator level. So.
I also want to say that as a executive board for OSEA, we also know that next year furlough days could possibly happen. We're under no illusion. For us, it is that it's butting up against the end of the school year. That is for us the big crux of the matter, and where it gets very complicated for my membership because of the different the money, but also the different contracted days and how complicated that gets. But we're with Drew. But I also have the same caveat. I mean, I'm right with Drew about there should be no excess. There should be no excess. If you're not in the schools working with children, then your job should be questioned. Because those kids are number one to all of us. And that's why we do what we do. For as little as we do it.
So there's 9 school days left. I think that's correct. What's the reality that there'll be enough time, given everyone's availability, time to sit down, go through the books, make sure both of your groups are on board and having 2 furlough days before next Friday?
Jen and I were going to meet with Steve today. I think he said he's on bill. Kind of eliminate, say, hey, here's what we're thinking. I talked to a couple of members of my team and asked them if they were potentially available on Wednesday. I don't know if I have meetings on Tuesday afternoon and Thursday afternoon. So Wednesday it seemed like the soonest that I could possibly do it. I will definitely, Steve might be watching. I will definitely email Steve and see if Wednesday is available. And again, like an invitation, if a couple of you guys, some of you have full-time jobs and some of you are a little more flexible. But if you'd like to come by and sit down, that would be great. I don't know for sure if Wednesday's happening. That's just kind of what we were hoping for.
I guess even then my question is like the process of that. Obviously, you're talking about people and their job. Like I got told on Thursday, hey, you're not working on Friday, actually. Like that's a problem. Like what realistically is the amount of time that you need to give notice to your employees?
Director, would you, if the district were to be, for example, making a few additional cuts to positions, or I'm not sure I understand.
If there hypothetically to be 2 furlough days this year, how what's the process and time needed to make that known to staff and otherwise?
It's very difficult. When my team and I put out the survey, and we said 24 hours, and we got the results, and the results were 4 to even 41 days. But we are under illusions that it's going to be easy. I mentioned this last time I was here on Thursday. This timeline is just so incredibly short. And it's wildly inconvenient. I was having conversations with my PLC partners today about we're going to start a project next week on Monday. So if this whole thing happens, and we're going to have to put it. I mean, it's not just freshman history position. It's every teacher, every classroom leader in our district. Which is, I thought I was going to have 2 more days. Yes, it's an unfortunate timeline.
Is it even a possible timeline? I mean, I want to know realistically, and maybe that's what I don't want to put words in Director Allen's mouth, but even if you met Wednesday and all the caveats were met, I mean, maybe walk us through what it would take to get after, if everything was ideal, and then Wednesday we could get a meeting with, district leadership in both associations. How would that even be possible, if it's possible, and what would that process look like to get that approved?
I hate to be a negative Nancy, but honestly, I don't think it's possible. And part of that for me, honestly, is even if they say if they sit down and say, yes, this is going away, this is going away, this is going away, this is going away. We give up 2 furlough days, and then they decide, well, actually, we do need to keep that. We do need to keep that. I mean, there's such this whole thing has eroded so much faith in the system and faith in the information that people are given. And this isn't just my opinion. This is what I hear from people. That it's hard to take a lot at face value right now. And that's why it's so hard for me to advocate and sell basically to 259 people that it'll be worth it this year. Now, going into next year, it might be, the picture could be completely different. I don't know what's going to happen. But it's hard this year to do that. And I'm just being perfectly honest. And maybe someone's being insulted by that, but I'm just being perfectly honest.
Thank you. I wouldn't take it as being a negative anything. I think that that was why I was asking is I want to know the realistic picture here. And I think that's helpful. So thank you.
Well, and I agree, the communication has really, well, I don't even know. We haven't really been communicating. And so it's been back and forth. We did have conversation. Would we have furloughs? What would that look like? Then we had an announcement. We're not having furloughs. It went out to the community, it went out to parents, in addition to all the teachers that are impacted or all the families and need for childcare for those days as well. And so it does not fall on, deaf ears that this has become very challenging. And I don't really see a path towards furlough, but that's out of my skill set. So I'm guessing we are waiting for Dr. Phillips to reach out to you guys. Is that really what would be the next step?
I email district leadership tomorrow, but in talking with Jen today while you all were in executive session, it became a little more clear. Things kind of cleared up that for teachers, for licensed teachers, if we say, hey, instead of your last day being with students on Friday and it's going to be a half day, your last day with students is going to be on Wednesday and it's a half day. So you'll have to do a little pivoting, you gotta do a little rearranging, and if you were gonna do a 3-day whatever now, you might not be able to do it. But we are all on a 190-day contract, and so much as I did realize that their contracts were a little bit different, I didn't realize that they were so wildly divergent from ours, that they had such a smorgasbord of different length contracts and when what's asked of them and what's required at the end of the year. So it could be difficult. Even I sent to my members and I sent to the board members and I sent to Steve and I said, my membership is voted for furlough days. I tried to be, and I hope that this came across when I emailed you, tried to be very careful in saying like, this is not a done deal yet. There are still several steps we need to take before we do this. And I hate to keep saying back in 2017 when we did this was like a several week-long process. It wasn't oh my goodness, the sky is falling and we got to figure this out in the next 4.5 days. There are so many different variables and moving pieces and parts. It's difficult to figure this out in 4.5 days.
And going back to 2017, I was not yet on the board. It's actually what made me run for the board. We found out about the budget shortfall. Yeah, I think in 1st of October, September, October, it happened. Way different. Way different. It's like almost apples and oranges. It's not even the same. As far as timeline goes. Sorry. That's okay.
With that being said, then is understanding a little more the realistic timeline and things. There's mention about furlough days next year. Are those conditions you're going to want met for next year as well? Which I think is fair. I just wanted to put that out there.
I'd like it.
For the record, I nodded. Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. This is I wanted that on there.
Thank you both.
Any other questions for Jen or Drew? Appreciate you guys coming.
I've got a question for Drew. So thank you for working through this, for being here tonight. And I'm sorry that you're in this position. Absolutely sorry for the people you represent. I'm curious, as the other directors are asking questions, how does this affect, if you guys were to take off the licensed staff and the kids weren't being taught, does that affect the amount of hours that they're required to have, or am I looking at this wrong?
To clarify your question, Director DeHart, are you saying if we took off a day or 2 days at the end of the year, would that impact the state mandated hours that the kids have to go to school?
Yes. That.
Okay. I believe at elementary, and I don't have the papers in front of me, I believe at elementary and middle school, we are well above. High school, it's a little closer, and seniors, it's really close, especially because our seniors get out about a week early. And I'd have to look into the high school, but I bet some money that I know for a fact, because I taught at Mountain View for a long time. Middle school, we're way over. Elementary, they're all nodding. We're way over elementary as well. Yes, we're way over the state mandated minimum.
Okay, thanks. And I guess my other question is, as we, at the end of the year, we've got graduations coming up, award ceremonies. Is that being discussed also, and how or if that will be affected?
Graduation is this Friday, so it wouldn't affect that. As far as any additional kind of award ceremonies, it's not right in my purview. But I know for a fact, I've talked to some of my elementary folks that it could affect field days. They've scheduled their field days for Thursday, and if we took a furlough day on Friday and a furlough day on Thursday, then they'd have to reconfigure their field days. It would definitely be a monkey wrench. And as I'm finding out tonight from Ms. Esmond over here, that it's quite a bit more difficult for classified, and it doesn't make sense to do furlough days unless we can get licensed and classified on the same page, because you're not saving the money. That's the entire point of taking furlough days is to save the district money.
Thank you.
Sorry, I really appreciate you coming. I'm so sorry about the lack of communication for last week. And I really appreciate your expressing the concerns on behalf of folks that you work with and keep the schools running and safe and kids able to go about their days of being taught and growing and whatnot. So, okay. If you don't have anything else, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming. Okay, I also had just gotten a text about audio, so it sounds like it may be getting better, but we shouldn't really be checking our phones during board meetings, but it's important that if we do have audio issues, we. So what I hear you say is I should bring my own microphone, like a bedazzled one or something. Okay, not to make light of anything. As I said, we are supposed to have a budget update that will not be happening tonight. So we will go into board action items. The first one is a delegation of spending authority.
Jackie Olson is.
Jackie Olson is listening, but she does not have a budget update for this evening.
This was one of the items that was recommended by the budget committee was for us is if I'm understanding, this is for us to suspend that. Or no, never mind. That was the next one. So this
one is to the board of directors delegates spending authority to Jackie Olson. She is the one from the director of the Oregon Association of School Board Officers or School Business Officers. Thank you. So that she can continue to assist and make day-to-day decisions and assist with the finance division. So what she would need to be able to do her job would be for us to give her authority. So we would need to do this recommendation.
You want me to just read the whole thing? All right. The board of directors delegates spending authority to Jackie Olson, executive director, Oregon ASBO, to make decisions for the district in connection with the day-to-day financial impacts. Ms. Olson is directed to provide regular updates to the board chair and to the entire board on a monthly basis or as required.
I'll make the motion. I move that the Newburgh Dundee Public School Board of Directors delegate spending authority to Jackie Olson, executive director, Oregon ASBO, as defined above.
Do we have a second
Second.
discussion?
So I just want to make sure to clarify that this is. I'm trying to imagine what authority she would need to spend that's not already in play. And I'm trying to make sure that it's. I mean, I trust her. I mean, at this point, I trust her, but I just want to make sure that we are truly, I guess, providing the proper guardrails and what is to be what she is approving. If Dr. Phillips is here, I know he's out sick today, but if he's here, then I think he should be the one doing anything new. Again, I would say Jackie would be the one, doing anything that's maybe in flight and maybe signing the the POs, whatever they're called, purchase orders. There's something that, yes, thank you. And so I just would like to make sure that that's clarified. I don't know if we have to amend it. Is that the expectation? I'm just concerned with this is pretty outright, just giving her purchase authority or spending authority, and I'm a little concerned with that.
Sorry, I keep pushing the button, but I see Jackie Olson that you are on the meeting, and I don't know if you are in a spot where you could.
I have
Address.
unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. I think this is for backup. I'm so glad that you were concerned about this and bringing this up. This is just for those things that happen to come up. This is no decision or processes would be changed outside the current district policies and operating procedures as is. But I'm currently developing your budget for 24-25. There are some things I am not making any decisions. I'm making a recommended budget that balances. But there may be something that comes up in the next couple of weeks that the district needs support on, and this would give me the authority to do that. It would not be anything outside of your current operating procedures.
And Jackie, what I presume is that at the end of the time that you were needed for, doing this work, we would then rescind that authority. So it's not like you go in for forever having that authority over our budget.
Correct.
Difficult question to ask, maybe that you might not know the answer since district top staff isn't here. Who would normally be doing that outside of Phillips or Scott? Is there a reason why you are being added to this at this point?
So I think right now, the person that was set up in the financial system to approve purchase orders, it was Heather. And so that is no longer in place. I don't know Dr. Phillips' expertise in using the financial software. So if something has to be approved, this does give the district authority to at least set me up to approve requisitions to go through as needed. But those are really on an emergent basis right now, since there is a spending freeze across the district, with the exception of grants that have to continue to be spent down. There just has to be somebody at some point that can maybe push some of those through.
Any other questions for Jackie? Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Everybody indicated a yes, so we will get that going, and Jackie, I'll get that sent over to you this evening. Thank you. Okay, this next one is one we discussed, I believe, last week. James, do you have any interest in reading or updating?
Sure, yeah, I think this is the one I meant when this was the recommendation of the budget committee moving forward for us to waive that. So I'll just read it. Reserves and unappropriated fund balance. The board works to ensure the district delivers the best educational program available within the constraint of well-managed resources. To offer such a program, the board recognizes its responsibility to establish reserves and unappropriated ending fund balance in an amount sufficient to protect the district from unnecessary borrowing in order to meet cash flow needs, provide prudent reserves to meet unexpected emergencies and protect against catastrophic events, help meet the uncertainties of state and federal funding, and help ensure a district credit rating that would qualify the district for lower interest costs and greater marketability of bonds that may be necessary in the construction and renovation of school facilities. Consequently, the board directs the superintendent to manage the adopted budget to ensure reserves and ending fund balances as follows. Appropriated contingency reserve of 2% of the general fund total reserves, total resources net of the beginning fund balance. The contingency may be used for emergencies as approved by formal board resolution. 2, unappropriated ending fund balance of 5% of the general fund total resources net of the beginning fund balance. The unappropriated ending fund balance is unavailable for expenditures during the current budget year. The superintendent shall develop a budget plan to establish the reserves and ending fund balances designations, or as directed by the board. Should the projected contingency reserves and fund balance for the current and ensuing fiscal year fall below targets in this policy, the superintendent will propose a corrective plan of action for matters within the district's control to prevent or limit any further erosion. The board may budget for contingency reserves and or for ending fund balances other than those defined in this policy if it finds by specific board resolution that unusual conditions require variance from this. Policy, now there's more. Including the predictability and volatility of its revenues and expenditures, the availability of resources and other funds as a potential drain upon the general fund. End of policy. And that was policy DB.
So it was recommended that we suspend this policy until 2025 so that we can utilize the money that's currently in our reserve to backfill the budget shortfall. Unfortunately, I don't know the amount of money that's in that line item, and I didn't bring my budget book with me tonight. But this is in order, to sort of mitigate some of the expenses that, we're trying not to cut as much as we can.
Jackie, I'm curious if you might have that number, and also, under our board policy, number 4, the first section says to help ensure a district credit rating that would qualify the district for lower interest costs. We're talking about maybe, and I don't know if there's an update on potentially getting a loan, but would doing this hurt our chances of getting a loan if we were to not have that type of reserve?
So at this time, you are not getting a loan, so it will not impact that credit rating currently for this fiscal year. I don't have the number off the top of my head. I'm happy to look it up, but basically you didn't get revenue in this year to build that reserve that was budgeted. So your beginning fund balance is 0. As we're rolling into next year, you don't have a general fund reserve, even though there was a budget for it last year. You didn't get the revenue in to match that. So what this policy, by freezing this policy, by stopping it, you are allowing the district not to have to budget the 2% and the 5%. At this time, I'm working on your general fund budget, which would be, we're looking at reductions up to $14 million. If we had to add another 5% in unappropriated, it would be on top of that $14 million.
Jackie, I think the fact that we're not getting the loan is a bit of a surprise. Is there anything you can say about that? So here we're now in like a budget update, and we really weren't expecting that. Or maybe you can talk to us about it on the 10th.
Can I bring back information on the 10th to you guys? I'm putting it together for you.
Yeah, that would be very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was mentioned that we likely weren't getting it in the last budget, but that's, I think, the first we heard that we're not getting it, so. All right, so.
Before we make, I know you have discussion points, but I have a feeling that the way I'm gonna ask these questions, we're gonna want to modify this motion. So I was hoping maybe we could discuss this a little bit more upfront. I recall, now I might be wrong or mistaken here, but I recall that the budget committee is only suggesting for us to remove the 5%, that we still need to try to hold the 2% for next year. Again, this is for next year's budget. And so I just want to, and I don't see anybody in the budget committee in the audience, at least from my angle. And I don't know if my memory's accurate on that.
Jackie, I'm sorry to do this, but if we hold off on a motion regarding this until our June 11th board meeting, does that impact your ability to do what you need to do for the budget meeting on the 10th? I think maybe I'm just sensing that we don't have exactly. Oh, Director Hayden might be finding something.
Yeah, I'm just trying to go over what the recommended was.
Just give us 1 second. We have the notes from the budget committee meeting and the recommendations from the budget committee. It's the ball. So that was number 14 on that one. Recommendations was waiver of unappropriate ending fund balance requirement. Recommended the board waive the requirement policy DVDV that the budget included unappropriated ending fund balance of 5% of the general fund total resources net at the beginning fund balance for the 2024-2025 fiscal year.
So just clarity, that's not striking the whole policy, we're modifying it right just for the ending fund balance target.
Well, the recommended motion is not to get rid of the policy, it's to suspend it through 2025.
Agree, but flat out suspending a policy means that we're not holding ourselves accountable to anything. And if the budget committee is the one that recommended just doing an ending fund balance, and that means also we don't have to do anything with 2%, which I don't believe that was the intent, because that was not the way it was written out from budget committee Claire Hertz.
So maybe we do possibly modify it for in policy DB waiving. It's like the section 2 about that unappropriated ending fund balance of 5%. Instead of suspending the whole policy, we just waive that portion.
But the 5% is the piece that we need to, that's,
Yeah, we suspend the 5%. We don't suspend the 2%.
Yeah, so that would be in policy DBD, waive the portion that requires us to, it's number 2 on there, to have the unappropriated ending fund balance of 5% of the general fund total resources, et cetera.
I think you just modify the motion, strike out reserves and leave unappropriated fund balance there. Right now, it states that Newburgh Dundee Public Schools Board of Directors suspend board policy DB reserves and unappropriated fund balance through June 2025. So we're talking about just striking the reserves, which is the 2%.
but the policy is reserves and unappropriated fund balance.
That's the name of it. So we could,
So modify it to just say,
well, let's say, make it just say exactly what the recommendation is, that the board waives the requirement in policy DB that the budget include an unappropriated ending fund balance of 5% of the general fund total resources net at the beginning fund balance for the 24-25 fiscal year.
So you say that not having, like suspending this policy doesn't mean we're not allowed to have an unappropriated in fund balance. The policy is to state that we have to have X amount. So I just, by doing this isn't saying like, well, now there isn't anything here and we don't have to put anything there. That would still be the role of the budget committee. This just suspends that, so it gives us more options as we prepare the budget, not to say that we can't hold 2% of an unappropriated fund balance. We could get into making a new motion that's complicated and probably doesn't make much difference. It would be nice if we had a professional here who could be guiding us right now, but since that's not the case, I believe in us as a board and the budget committee to make sure that we are being responsible and keeping that 2% as a part of the way that we pass the adopted budget.
okay. We have a motion.
I move that the Board of Dundee Public School Board of Directors suspend board policy DB reserves and unappropriated fund balance through June 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Or any
Aye.
further
Sorry, discussion? Sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we have 4 yes and
I
it.
think you have 5.
Oh, did you?
Nancy.
I voted Deb.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
And
Any
Michelle.
opposed? Okay, we have 1. All right, motion carries. Thank you. All right, we have, for future board meetings, we have the budget committee meeting on June 10th at 6 p.m. And we have a regular school board meeting with an executive session that will start at 5 p.m. on June 11th. And with that, the meeting.
Really quick, I'm sorry. I would love to say thank you to all the Joe and Austin staff and teachers for coming out and making sure that we know that they're there. It's awesome you would take time out of your busy last couple of weeks of school tonight to do this. And I want to make sure that it's noticed and that everyone at home who can't see knows that there is a large showing of support for conversations that have been happening otherwise. Thank you.
I agree.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, with that, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you.